Well, hi, I'm Greg Sizemore, founder and president of the Construction Users Roundtable, commonly called CURT. What CURT is an organization that focuses on the industrial owner, and we deliver resources, experiences, and perspectives, not only with each other as members of the organization, but also with our industry trade partners. We delve into such areas as safety, workforce development, modularization, pre-assembly, productivity improvement, project excellence, women in construction, and most recently, AI. Speaking of AI, we have an event coming up on June the 9th here in Cincinnati, Ohio, entitled Leadership in the Age of AI, focused on the construction industry. And we invite you to check out that agenda. It's robust. We'd love to have you. You can find more information on CURT.org, our website. So I want to, without further ado, introduce to you our guest today on our podcast. And that guest name is Mr. Stewart Dellar, and he is the principal of Stellar Business Advisors. He's also the Vistage Chair for Australia and New Zealand. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He is a seasoned executive leader and strategy advisor with 25 years of experience, more so actually, in construction, manufacturing, and the resources sector. He has held senior leadership roles with multinational organizations, including Boral, BlueScope, and so many others. Stuart is recognized by boards and CEOs for his ability to translate complex challenges into practical, actionable strategies. His experience includes large-scale transformation initiatives, entering new markets, and improving operational and financial performance across global organizations. As principal of his organization, Stewart works very closely with senior executives and leadership teams to strengthen their decision-making, to improve their alignments among their various departments, and build high-performance cultures and high-performance teams. He's also a recognized voice on leadership and operational excellence, all the way from Australia, where it is the middle of the night. He's gotten up to be with us here. Well, maybe not so much the middle of the night, but quite early in the morning. Stuart, we welcome you. Thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Greg, for that kind introduction, and good afternoon, listeners. And thank you to CURT and all the team at CURT for hosting this podcast.
Hey, we're glad that you're with us. So let's just hop right on into it. You've worked across the construction, manufacturing organizations. What is one leadership truth that holds true? What is the through thread that holds true across those when it comes to leading construction projects? And I know you've consulted on a lot of them, and over the many years you've worked in our business.
Good question, Greg. For me, it comes down to consistency in communication.
Mm-hmm.
Invariably, organizations don't lack strategy, but it's how that strategy is executed from the leadership down right through the organization from an alignment standpoint. And so the point that I'm making is invariably what you see is a strategy that's been formulated, but it's how that's communicated systemically across the organization. So everything from governance, risk, capital proposals, how you operate, how you execute, how you interface with all your key stakeholders, all of that messaging and all of those systems need to be aligned to give the organization the best opportunity to execute the strategy. And I see it more times than not that the understanding of the importance of communication in all shapes, forms, and mediums is a reflection of the quality of our leadership to take the organization forward.
What do you think are the most effective communication strategies, Stuart? And I guess maybe while you collect your thoughts, that also depends on the type of organization, its size, whether it's multinational or regional. What are the most effective ways that you've discovered that complex organizations can communicate effectively?
It's really, the first thing is you have to understand who your stakeholders are and how to engage them. People revert to what's important for them.
Hmm.
And so taking the time to pre plan how you're going to communicate, with what tools and resources to communicate, to engage with your people at different levels across the organization, to ensure there's consistency in messaging across the board. So there's probably no one, let's call it lightning rod. Um, it's just looking at your communication system from a holistic standpoint to make sure that it's reinforcing the simple messages that you want the organization to carry forward and create that alignment, consistency, and it has to be coherent to give the clarity to all stakeholders that are engaged.
So, if I want to improve my communications and I'm at a medium sized business, do you have some resources that you would recommend that would be good for our listeners to plug into in terms of enhancing communication effectiveness?
Oh, look, there's I would be the first to admit that I'm not the best communicator going, and just from a self awareness standpoint. However, I think you've got to find your own style and what fits best for you. I think the big mistake or the risk is that you try to be something that you are not as a
Mm.
leader. So out of all the environment, and there are many sources of information and tools with respect to communication and many experts, I think you have to find what works for you. So whether you're talking at board level, whether you're talking at investor level, whether you're talking senior leadership, whether you're talking right across and through the organization with your leaders and your personnel, you have to choose the tools that best fit your style to make your message very, very clear.
When you think about decision making, which is part of the communications flow, they're made probably a little bit more differently today thanks to technology. And given the pace of construction, what has changed in decision making processes in your experience recently? How has technology changed how we make decisions and communicate those decisions?
I think the advancement as technology as an enabler is that connectivity between what's actually happening on site on any given time to back into, let's call it headquarters. So if you're looking at you're running multiple large projects across geographically dispersed sites, great examples of technology enablers that I've seen to really understand the consistency and what is actually happening on site as opposed to what we think is happening
Mm.
is the enablement of our mobile phone with purpose written apps that are fit for purpose. That if I'm executing and making decisions on site, there is no lag between if I'm confronted with a certain situation where I need to seek counsel or I need to report up to make sure my safety checks are being done. I've completed the piece of work that I need to complete. That now, evidence based, what I've observed is pretty much instantaneous if you choose to adopt the right technology that's fit for purpose for your business. So, from a decision making standpoint, if you think about what we plan to do today and what we actually do and what the gap is, to drive our productivity improvement. So removing some of the white space, I think technology has been the single biggest enabler to that process in a seamless fashion.
So let's talk a little bit about workforce and culture. There's a lot being said today about workforce, obviously, about the lack of or availability of skilled workforce and what I'd call, the engineers, the CMs, the project managers, as well as our trade partners. So you have said before that leadership is ultimately about people. What do you think construction leaders get wrong most frequently when it comes to workforce engagement. So maybe it's a little bit of a communications question as well as a culture question. But is there anything that you've seen consistently that leadership tends to miss or get wrong when it comes to establishing good culture and good people, obviously?
That's a really good question, and having operated in across multicultural, uh, um, across country, across regions, and domestically and internationally, to me, it's really you have to really understand and map your stakeholders. Just
Hmm.
because I communicate in my shape and form. The question is what's being received, and am I taking time to listen, to understand what one thing means to one individual versus another can be completely different. And my single counsel would always be really do a deep dive on your stakeholder engagement map to make sure that you give yourself every opportunity to send consistent messages and coherent messages as opposed to mixed messages.
Stuart, if you had to give one piece of advice to improve the culture in a multi generational job site, what do you think that would be?
Oh, that's a really good. That is.
That's a hard question, I know. And as you collect your thoughts, let me tell you another challenge, at least in the States, we're having, and that is we did a little informal study, and we've gotten it from two sources. The number of female participants in our business, in the industry, is 11 to 14%. It was also 11 to 14% over 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, actually. And so we've got the 50% of our demographic in the country is female, but we're only reaching very, very few of our females to enter this industry, whether it's in the field or, as a CM or CE or whatever. What do you think the barriers are there? And then the original question is if you had to give one piece of advice to improve just the overall culture at a multi-generational job site, what do you think it would be?
No, I think respect. And what I mean by that is the industry is seeing a considerable transition of knowledge base departing the industry. The question is, what happens with that accumulated knowledge going forward? Because
Right,
society's invested a
right.
lot of time and money for all of those individuals that have given service to the industry and contributed to the industry over their whole professional career. And I think to reinforce from a cultural perspective, I see there's an enormous untapped opportunity to retain that knowledge and transition that knowledge to the younger generations and all individuals that are entering into the industry. And that may be part time coaching and mentoring. They come in 1 day a week, they sit down with a very specific
Yeah. Huh.
buddy system, over a period of time. Because what my fear is the depth of knowledge in terms of, if you take from a learning standpoint, is I think the practicality and the differences between generations and understanding the culture of the organization is you want that knowledge requirement embedded in all members of the organization. And in the age of technology, it's very instantaneous. You're looking, I think the big generational shift is immediate information, getting an answer there straight away. Well, there's one thing to get an answer electronically and how to do it. The next thing is actually how to apply it and make sure it's executed correctly in the right shape and form with what the expectations of not just the organization, but the quality of the work that's done within the industry going forward. So I think to me is if there was some sort of structure within the transitioning of people exiting and moving through their professional career, that there's a staging where it's not full retirement, but a focused effort to transfer that knowledge and that accumulated knowledge to the future generations that are coming through. I think, to me, that's probably the most key important thing that I would like to see across organisations embedded in their culture to the benefit of everyone. Yep, we step back from the roles and responsibilities, then it's about the people.
Hmm.
So the clear difference is when you open a leader and a founder's mind up to that process, the amount of discovery and depth of understanding of their own organisation, of not just what it is today, but what it can be in the future. From my experience, it's nearly like an awakening,
Mm.
because it's not inherently taught to leaders. If you think about trade-based qualifications or you're coming up through, it's not something that's always taught at first hand as part of those courses. Um, and the way to look at your market and what are those tools that you can put around it. So, um, to me, my mantra is market backwards, because if you, if as a leader, if I was struggling to define what my market was, my question would be, how do you know you've got a strategy? Or execute, because
Yeah.
if you don't know what that definition is and what it looks like and what it is versus what it is not, I'm not sure the rest of it has context of the reasons and
Yeah.
decisions that you make, why you do. You raised an earlier point about productivity, and to me, this goes to the core of the heart of productivity, because you narrow your focus and allocate your resources efficiently and your time and effort, because it's the things that matter most, as opposed to, yes, we can always do that because it has the depth of context.
Yeah, that really does make sense. Now, look, you have worked with the Vistage Group there in Australia. Tell us what about your work with the Vistage Group, and then I've got a couple of follow-up questions about it, if you don't mind. But tell
Yes.
us about Vistage and your role with that crowd there in Australia.
Well, look, I'm very grateful to Vistage. I came across Vistage a number or 3 years ago, and I was invited to become a chair of their chief executive groups, three legacy groups actually, two chief executive founder groups, and also what they call key groups, which are middle level leaders. I'm very grateful to the previous chair that I was handed the reins of as the custodian of those groups. But I think the key thing about, um, better decisions, better leaders, better outcomes.
Hmm.
And what I like, and as a chair, I get a lot of gratification out of with the Vistage model. And Vistage is circa 40 plus thousand members globally. It's an international organization. It very much is aligned with what I would call the heart of, in the Australian context, the heart of the Australian economy, purely because, well in excess of 90% of our economy is made up of small to medium sized enterprises.
Hmm.
And so what that means is there are many businesses ranging up to 10 million, 10 million to 30 million, 30 million to 50, 50 to 100 and in excess. And so they come together. Those groups are peer learning groups. So very much every time that you touch base with those founders and leaders of their organizations, they're effectively tapping into many years of experience, but not just within industry, across industry. And it's a very safe environment for leaders to present and learn about the situations that they confront, and sharing And it really is reliant on the concept of sharing and it's being able to strip it back to its rawest content, whatever the opportunity that you're experiencing in your organization, and canvas through a facilitated process the collective experience of the group over many, many years. And so an indicative group, circa 250 to 300 years of CEO experience, um, on aggregate, thousands of employees in aggregate, significant scale in revenue, but all different organizations from different industries. So, and the intent is really to drive and support you how to grow your business from where it
Mhm,
currently is today into the
mhm.
future, and being supported by subject matter experts that speak on a monthly basis on certain specific topics that are aligned with the needs of the members within the organization. And that process is supported by a global network based out of North America and has been an absolute delight to be a part of. And I feel very grateful that I was invited to become a chair of their members groups.
If any of our listeners want to get a hold of you for further dialogue or to discuss a specific issue, what's the best way for them to do that?
Uh, they can contact me through my LinkedIn profile.
Okay,
You'll
good.
find me. They can message me through that. They can connect me through via email. I'm quite happy for you to provide that as part of the podcast,
Yes, of course.
and I can pick it up from there and help them out. I love when people ask me questions for support.
Wonderful. Well, we've been talking to Stewart Dellar from Australia, who has shared with us some leadership and strategy concepts, decision making, performance challenges. We've talked workforce and culture and transformational change. And so, Stuart, I want to just thank you so much for taking time, getting up really early to accommodate our time difference. It's about 4:45 here, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, this is Construction Connection, powered by CURT, a weekly podcast that features various leaders in the industrial construction space, and we're very pleased to thank Mr. Stewart Dellar. And we'll catch you next time on Construction Connections, powered by CURT.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, listeners.